quite as organized as I had planned on being, but that's okay. If you are joining me for the very first time, thank you for coming to hang out with us today for a little while. We're going to have some fun today. We're going to make Irish coffee, and I have a brand new bottle of Irish whiskey that we're going to use. So we'll see how that goes. Oh, goodness. And we are also going to make cheese crisps. Now, I don't know whether you're familiar or not, but there's a product called Wisps. Now, I buy them at Costco because you can buy them in bigger packages, but I know you can get them in smaller packages other places, and they are a little bit more expensive to do that way. Okay, now let's just make sure that I can see anything you guys are saying in the chat. So if you're here, let me know where you're from. Now, I want to show you, I have a brand new apron today, so happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. This is compliments of Kay Kaiser. So a big shout out to her. This is absolutely beautiful, and I love it. I didn't have a St. Patrick's Day apron, and since she is my mom, she might have known that. So thank you very much for this. This was an amazing gift. Okay, so we are going to do a few things today. Now, I had planned on having the whipped cream ready before we got started, but that didn't happen. But that's okay. Now, when you make whipped cream, it's important that you have really cold whipping cream, not milk, not half and half, not anything else, whipping cream. Why do we use whipping cream rather than something with fewer calories? And, well, I'll tell you why. Because fewer calories means more carbs. And we don't want more carbs. We want fewer calories. So that's why we do it that way. Now, when I make whipped cream, now I'm just going to grab a clean cloth and put over this bowl. You know, I was someplace the other day, and I made whipped cream, and they had this amazing bowl with a lid on it that was a splatter protector, and I thought that is just absolutely the most brilliant idea. Now we're going to make a little bit of noise here. I'm going to kind of move this away from the mic a little bit while it's whipping, and we'll get our glasses over here ready to use. And we'll try not to make too much of a mess on this brand new apron, although that is kind of what it's for. So good morning, Mom. Now, I don't know whether you heard or not, but I was just sharing with everybody that this beautiful apron that I'm wearing today was a very special creation made just by you. And I absolutely love it. You know, I was looking for a St. Patrick's Day apron, and I didn't find anything that I liked. Now, we've got to watch this. When you're whipping cream, it's important that you keep an eye out on it, because if you don't, you're going to end up with whipped butter, and that is absolutely not what we want. So I'm just going to keep an eye to the side of the bowl. Now, this does not need any cream of tartar in it. We don't want it to be that stiff for Irish coffee. We want it to be a little bit looser. Yep, definitely making a mess here today. Now, you're probably going to notice I have not changed my sign. I don't know that I'm going to change it every day, maybe every week. I don't know. We'll see how ambitious I get. Now, are you hearing me, or are you just hearing my mixer? I just got this out of the fridge, so it's nice and cold. And then splattering all over the place. That's awesome. So we're going to do Irish coffee today, and we are also going to do cheese crisps, and we're going to use, if you look on the counter, I'm sure you'll see I have 1 cup of, it's a cheddar Monterey Jack blend. Now, I don't know what the deal is with this cream, but it does not seem to want to whip today. We're getting there, maybe. Yep, slowly but surely we're getting there. This is something that I had planned on having done before we got started. But as long as it's a little bit thick, it doesn't have to form stiff cubes. So I'm not too terribly worried about it. Okay. Now I am going to add 1 teaspoon of clear vanilla. Now I want you to take a look. When you're doing whipped cream, it's important that you use clear vanilla, and you know, you can add sweetener to your whipped cream or not. Now, how is it that every time we get together for anything, it seems that I forget 1 ingredient? So I'm just going to grab it. Okay, so this is Amson Naturals powdered erythritol. I really love this brand. I gotta tell you, it is economical. Now I am going to put about 2 tablespoons in here because I didn't put a lot of whipping cream in here. So I'm just going to add, yeah, that'll be good. Now we'll get this whipped in here. Now you'll see, set this out of the way. Whipped cream is getting a little bit thicker. When it starts getting a little bit thicker, it doesn't splash quite so much, so I can get rid of my cloth that I was using. Okay, now this is just about thick enough. Okay, that's about as thick as we want it. Now I know for a lot of things you want it to be just really super stiff and hold really firm peaks, but for Irish coffee we want it to be able to slide down the spoon into our drink. Okay, now I'm just going to set this aside for a few minutes because we're going to get something else going here. Now we did what did we do? We did cheese puffs on Sunday. Well, I'm going to show you how to do cheese crisps right now. Now I want to show you something. I'm going to set this bowl on the scale, and I'm going to hit 0 on the scale. And this is approximately, it's kind of a scant cup of grated cheddar cheese. And my cup measures 115 grams. Who cares? A cup is a cup, right? Well, it isn't, because I could have filled that cup fuller. I could have packed it in more. It would have had it would have had a little more weight to it then. So that's why I tell you all the time to use a scale when you are doing anything with keto. No, especially when you're cooking. Now I'm just going to trim some parchment paper here so that it fits on my pan a little better. Is that going to work? Sure, that's going to work. Okay, now before we start portioning this onto the pan, we are going to add 1/4 teaspoon of TSL Organics mild chili powder. You can use the hotter chili powder. I'm going to make it a little bit hotter because I'm also adding 1/4 teaspoon of TSL cayenne pepper. I like it a little spicier. Okay. Now on top of that, because we're using cheddar, cheddar isn't nearly as salty as Parmesan. So I'm going to add I think 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Do another batch you want it a little bit saltier, you can do that next time. But for right now, we're just going to do that, and we're going to mix this up so that everything is all nicely coated, especially since we have that cayenne pepper in there. We want to make sure that there's no clumps of that anywhere. Now if you're doing Parmesan cheese, you can do the same thing with spices. You can add Italian spice, you can add whatever spice you want to add. Okay, now we're going to get the scale out of the way, and we are just going to put little mounds of cheese on our pan. Now you remember my friend Alexa? She's invited to the party this morning too, because I know me and I really don't want to invite my fire detector, smoke detector to the party like we did the other morning. So now we're just making little piles. This is going to melt down and hopefully make beautiful crisps. And I want to get this in the oven quickly because this needs to, in order to get crisp, it needs to cool for a little bit. Now this is enough for us for right now. I know there's not very many on the pan, and you can definitely do more. They can be bigger, they can be smaller, whatever you like to do. So I have my oven set at 400 degrees, and 100 degrees. Alexa, set a 6-minute cheese timer.
Cheese timer, 6 minutes, starting now.
You know, she's just so dependable. You gotta love her. Okay, so she and I are going to be here 3 times a week. We're going to be here Sunday morning at 10 o'clock, Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock, and I think Fridays we're going to do a field trip some weeks. So Fridays are going to be field trip days. So we'll see how that goes. And okay, so when you are making Irish coffee, first of all, traditional Irish coffee is not done in a cup. I don't care what they say. In traditional Irish coffee in Ireland is done in a brandy snifter or something like a brandy snifter. Now, because we are using glass, you don't want to just pour boiling hot water. So just going to get a little bit of hot water here. Okay, so I have a cup with some hot water in it, and to protect the glass, I'm going to show you a trick. Pour the water over the back of a spoon, because then it's not directly hitting the glass in a wide or in a narrow path. It's hitting it in a wider path, so it helps protect the glass. Now we're going to leave that sit for a little bit, And it's warming up the glass. Now, while we leave that sit, oh, would you not know it? I put things away and I don't even know that I've put them away. So again, she's leaving, but I'm not going far. I am just grabbing another Amson Naturals product. Now this is Amson Naturals brown sugar substitute, because as much as Irish coffee is full of all kinds of yummy sugary goodness, we don't want sugar in our coffee because we're doing a keto version of Irish coffee. So we are going to take 1 teaspoon of Irish coffee per glass, and that's important. So now this has had time to warm, so I'm just going to pour this out. Now, one of the reasons that we do this is because now the glass is warm, so when we pour the coffee in, it's not going to be a shock. Okay, I'm going to put 1 teaspoon of Amson Naturals brown sugar. Now, they don't have a powdered brown sugar, so I'm using the granular, and I think I'm going to play around with my blender a little bit and see if I can't powder some of this, because that really would be lovely. So we have a teaspoon of Amson Naturals brown sugar in here. Now we are going to add our hot coffee. See how much of a mess I make. Now, I saw online somebody asked the question, can you get drunk off Irish coffee? Well, I suppose that partly depends on how Irish you are. It partly depends on how much Irish whiskey you put in it. Now, I am trying not to show the brand of Irish whiskey that I bought, because I honestly don't even know how good it is. But you don't need very much. So this is a 1 ounce shot glass, and I am just putting in, well, maybe a little bit more. It's lunchtime somewhere, right? Okay, so here we go, and we'll do the same thing in the other glass. See, I'm making one for you, so when you get here, there's an Irish coffee waiting for you. Okay, so that's all we need for the Irish coffee. Now, if you are really, really Irish and you are really wanting this to be a little stronger, you can put in as much as you want, and you can get a brandy snifter that is as big as you want. But for our purposes today now, the next thing we're going to do is we are going to add the whipped cream. But first, I'm going to give this a bit of a stir. I want to get that whiskey mixed in, and I want that brown sugar melted in there, so it gives it that nice bit of sweetness. And you know, an Irish whiskey has a bit of sweetness too, so you don't need lots and lots of sugar in it. Now we want this whipped cream to float on top of our Irish coffee, and so we are just going to let it fall down the handle of a spoon, so that instead of getting mixed right in, it sits right on top like a magical little leprechaun. Now, the reason this is important, we're going to take an Irish coffee break here for a minute, and we are going to, Alexa, stop. Now see, I totally would have forgotten this because I was busy. Okay, now I think these are done. Now look at this. Look at how beautiful those are. Now, these are going to be kind of bendy. That's the word of the day. So leprechaun and bendy, those are the words of the day. So we're just going to let these sit and cool, and we will do a taste test in a little while. But for right now, they get to sit and cool. Okay. Now, back to the Irish coffee because, you know, we have to have our priorities straight here, right? Okay, so I'm just going to move this bowl of whipped cream. Now look, when you use the clear whipping cream, look at how beautiful that is. And we're just going to move this other Irish coffee in here so you can see, and you just let the whipped cream fall down the handle of the spoon so it just sits right on top. And don't be cheap with the whipped cream. You made it to enjoy it, so enjoy it. There you go. And look at how beautifully that's sitting right on top. Now, my doorbell has not rung yet, so that means you're not here, but I am. Okay. There we go. Look at that. Look at how that whipped cream is just sitting right on top, just like it should. And the reason you want it on top is because the whole point is to drink the coffee through the whipped cream. Yep, that is definitely Irish coffee. That is wonderful. Okay, now let's see if we can't cool these cheese crisps off. I maybe shouldn't be having too much of that until after we're done. I don't know. What do you think? Okay. Now I did get a little bit of water on the counter, so we're going to get rid of that. Put my thing back here. Okay, now we are going to just bring the parchment paper over to the counter so that we can take a look at these cheese crisps. I'm going to keep these in the picture where you can see them. Now look at how beautifully that has done. Now that was 6 minutes in the oven. Now, let's see if they're bendy or if they're crunchy yet. I set the parchment paper on the counter because the counter is cool, so that's going to cool them much faster. This is still warm, so I'm not expecting it to crunch. And it did not disappoint. It is not crunching, but you can definitely tell that as it cools, it's going to. And so with the seasonings that we put in it, how'd that turn out? Salty, taco-y. Really, not a lot of heat from the cayenne. Really nice. So I think we got just the right amounts in there. A little bit of burn from that cayenne kind of sneaks up on you a little later. But they really are wonderful, and you can see when you move them that the oil from the cheese bakes out in the pan, and that's why it gets crisp. So you're left with the protein from the cheese and not the fat, which, I mean, I know we always talk about having good fat, and this definitely is good fat, but it's also a wonderful way to have a cracker to put in soup, or you know, whatever it is that you're wanting something crispy for. Try and include this with a meal rather than just sitting down with a bowl of cheese chips and eating them, because we really shouldn't be snacking, folks. I know I keep saying that. Now look at how beautiful those are. They are lovely. And it only took 6 minutes. Well, it takes a little longer if you are grating the cheese and getting it ready to go. But a 1/4 teaspoon each of salt, TSL cayenne pepper, and TSL taco seasoning. Mix it up and into the oven it goes at 400. Now we are pretty much out of time here, and hi Del. I hope you have enjoyed this, and I hope you are going to have a wonderful St. Patrick's Day. I hope the leprechauns leave all kinds of magical treasures in your house. Don't be counting on the pot of gold. They're generally pretty stingy with that. But if I can be your leprechaun today and teach you how to make an Irish coffee and some cheese crisps, I hope your lunch is going to be amazing. And on that note, I'm going to say goodbye today, and I will see you again on Friday, where we are going to be headed out for a field trip. So you have